and welcome to the Island Lamb podcast, and I'm Diane. And this is episode 26, Summer Knitting, Summer Traditions and Rituals. And we are now in July. We are feeling that heat and that humidity, and I don't mind that at all. We always seem to have a little bit of breeze up here on our hill and also on the island. We've had quite a bit of fog, but it's been great so far in July. And when I talked to you last time, I was letting you know that we were gearing up for Independence Day, the 4th of July on the island. And we had our fireworks and they went off without a hitch. My husband and I have a tradition of having a lobster dinner that night. We hope to have it out on the deck, but the fog rolled up the hill and we ended up in our dining room, and I'm showing you a photo of that evening. It was just the two of us. It was quiet, it was romantic, and it was a nice way to end the evening with the fireworks. We also had a wonderful parade. So another tradition of ours, when we first started coming to Block Island about 35 years ago, we would stay at this old Victorian hotel called the Surf Hotel. And it's still, we still refer to it as the Surf Hotel. It's now called the Beach House. And it's one of the few hotels that is right on the beach. It's beautiful. It sits right where, on the corner of Water Street and Dodge Street. So we see the parade coming down Dodge Street. We see it going up on Water Street. So we had great seats, and we had the Scottish bagpipers. We had a marching band. We had some great floats. The theme was your favorite hero, and our fire department came out in full force. It's a volunteer fire department. We have a volunteer emergency rescue team as well, and they came out and they put placards on each of the fire trucks in honor of some of our rescue volunteers and firemen who have since passed. So that was a really nice way. That was also the Grand Marshal was the first fire truck. It was a nice way to start the 4th of July. Some of our other rituals, of course, is to get to the beach, and one of my favorite things to do at the beach is either to knit or to read. So we'll get into that in a little bit. So I want to start right away by saying it's a little warm, it's a little muggy. It's a perfect kind of day to be wearing this sleeveless top. I talked about this quite a bit in the last episode. This is the number 23 Vogue lace back sweater pullover. And I'm showing you some photos of the front and back of this. It's an elegant, beautiful design. I'm wearing it right now with white linen slacks. I think you could wear this with a little white tee, a little white tank. I have a kind of an orange bralette on right now. I'm really enjoying wearing it, and it's perfect. It's linen, it's a linen cotton blend. You could make this in a variety of different yarns, so it's nice to have a sleeveless top on. Okay, so I can't wait to show you this. So this is the piece I've been working on, I think, the last few episodes. This is the Rosemary Drysdale leaf pattern. It's knit in pieces, it's knit bottom up. I did my swatching because I'm knitting back and forth and not in circular. It was a good way to swatch this. So I swatched on the sleeve. I had good luck with it. I used a mercerized cotton. I referenced this in several episodes, so I will include the episodes that I did so you can hear about the yarn, because I bought the yarn in Italy. So this has a lot of really good memories for me, where I got the yarn. I met Rosemary Drysdale, the designer, a few years ago on Block Island, and I couldn't wait to try this pattern. So it's a drop stitch design. It's really easy. Once you get the hang of it, it's very repetitive, and I'll show you the back. The front and the back are identical. So you don't have any short rows, you don't have any waist shaping. I think that the mercerized cotton gives it that little bit of elasticity. I'm looking forward to wearing it. It's a little too warm to wear it now, but when I do wear it, I will have my husband take me some pictures of me in it so you can see how it falls. It's very elegant. I think it's going to be great again with white, maybe a little white tee. Maybe a flowy skirt or flowy white linen slacks. I think it would also look good with maybe jeans, like, I don't know, maybe high-waisted jeans. We'll see how I'm going to style it, but I know for sure I'm going to definitely wear it with some white linen slacks initially. So I'm going to get to what's on the needles in a minute, but I did want to go back and show you some of the market bags that I have made over the years. I believe it was in episode 19, and I will also put that in the show notes, where I showed you one of the market bags that I like to make, and that is the Girlfriend market bag. This yarn comes on a cone. I don't have this particular one left, but I'm going to show you these cones. It's called Peaches and Cream. It's 100% cotton. It's made in the United States. I get it at Walmart. It's a very reasonable price. It comes in a lot of different colors. Now, I will say it is very, it doesn't have any give. It's not mercerized. You wouldn't probably want to wear it. I mean, maybe you could if you didn't have it directly on your skin. It's cotton. It feels sticky. It feels dry. It's perfect for a market bag. So I've made this in a couple of, this is variegated, so it came on the cone like that. This is like the one I just showed you. I put my yoga blocks in this when I go to yoga, and maybe my water bottle. Here's another one. This was a different yarn. I don't know exactly what this yarn was, but you can use anything. And I put a little knot on the top to keep this one a little closer to me. I think I took this to the farmer's market last week. And look at this little sweet one, this little orange one. This is great for taking to the beach. You can shake the sand off. And in here is a sweet little book that I like to read every summer. And it's called A Year by the Sea. It's by Joan Anderson. Thoughts of an Unfinished Woman. I usually read this out loud to my husband, maybe one chapter a morning while we're having coffee. And it's just a good little summer read to remind you of simplicity and the different phases of life. So anyway, market bags galore, and as if I didn't have enough going on. And I also, when we have guests, I'll say, oh, here's a market bag. We're going to the farmer's market. And if someone takes it home with them, I don't worry about that. I know I can always make another one. So on my needles right now is the Dumpling Bag, and this pattern is by Petite Knit, and I'm showing you a photo of the pattern. And it's all the rage right now, I think, on maybe Instagram and on Ravelry. I know Bobby from the Knitter's Niche just made one, and she showed us the lining she put in it, and that's my plan with this one. So this pattern is by Purl SoHo, and they're recommending their linen yarn. Well, I had, as you know, a lot of leftover Linen Quill, which is a merino linen blend. And I said, you know what, I'm not gonna go buy more yarn for these little bags. I've got it in navy, I have it in fuchsia, in orange, and in navy blue, and in this beautiful aqua color. Actually, I think this was called Jade. And I said, I'm just gonna make it in this and see how it goes. So this is my first one. This has a provisional cast on, and I used the crochet method, and Petite Knits included a tutorial if you've never done the crochet method. I think it's one of the easiest ways to do a provisional cast on. And for those of you who aren't sure what that is, it's so that you can access live stitches later. So I'm not exactly sure. I didn't even read ahead with the pattern. I think we're probably going to maybe Kitchener this, so it has some strength at the bottom. It has, offset little straps, and I'm working on the straps right now. And it is in a stocking knit, but the way you do the two edges of the strap with some slip stitches gives it some strength. And I'm going to line mine as well, and I might even put a little pocket inside it. I'm thinking this is going to be the perfect little project bag for my sock patterns to take, maybe to the beach, or if I get on the ferry, or if I'm traveling. So check that pattern out. I think it's it's a fun pattern, a good way to use your scrap yarns as well. So still thinking about bags. I mentioned to you last episode that I had found a raffia bag pattern. I am not making the pattern that I originally found. I found another pattern. I'm not even going to reference the pattern yet because I'm still not too sure about this. So it has an oval bottom. It's crocheted. I'm working my way up. I bought this raffia yarn online. It's if you've never worked with raffia is made out of paper, usually natural materials. This is a natural material. It's not, there's no nylon or polyester. It's very hard on the hands for me anyway. The pattern recommended a 2.5 millimeter crochet hook, and that's a very thin hook. Now I know, and I probably will buy one that has I've seen these online, that has maybe a rubber handle that might make it easier, but right now I can only put on a couple of rows at a time before my hands start to cramp up. So I'll see how this is gonna go. I think it would be I like the color, I like the design. I would probably make some kind of a liner bag to go inside it. I have some beautiful leather handles from a raffia bag that I purchased many years ago, and the bag disintegrated, but the handles are beautiful, and I wanted to use those handles on this. So we're gonna see how it goes. If anybody has any tips, I would be interested. I'm sure the first tip is to replace this needle. I can keep the 2.2 hook part, but I think I need a big, thick plastic handle, so when I'm pulling it through, I'm not having to hold it so tight. So that is, that's there. Working on the dumpling. I finished the Elmhurst sweater out of that Providence yarn by Barocco. I'm not going to show that to you today. It's warm, it's heavy. I worked on it because we were having some cool weather a few weeks ago, but I'm not going to show you that right now. I want to stay with lightweight summer, spring knits. Okay, so the second thing I love to do when I go to the beach, aside from reading, is knitting. And I went to my mother's garden club luncheon a couple of weeks ago, and there's a woman there who's also a knitter, and she came up to me and said, I've got to show you this yarn. And the yarn is called Fruity, and it's by Premier. The yarn is made in Turkey. It's 100% polyester. I don't usually do work in that. I really like to work in wool, natural fibers, but I was so enamored with the yarn, and it comes in all different fruit names, but this was watermelon, and this is what she had on the needles. And my mother went crazy when she saw, she had it halfway worked up, and my mother just loved it. So I decided, excuse me, I would go ahead and make them and give them to my mom. Excuse me, I'm gonna take a sip of water. Okay. So you buy 2 skeins. It may come in 100 gram skein. I bought 250 grams, and I usually make my socks top down, and I do like a gusset and a heel flap. I've never had a problem with, you know, a hole. Some people don't really like this style, but I learned many years ago to just pick up an extra stitch and then knit 2 together when I come around, when I'm decreasing, and I've had really good luck with that. And I also do a Kitchener finish with my toe. So I just think these are adorable. This is Fruity yarn by Premier, and this colorway is watermelon. Okay, so let's see, how are we doing? Where are we? Other summer rituals. So we are very fortunate that our property is surrounded by blackberry bushes. And I'm sure that's what those white, you know, I showed you some of the roses in our yard. Some are pink, some are white, but the white roses are off the brambles that are these blackberry bushes. And in a couple of weeks, we'll probably be picking blackberries, and I'm excited about that. The gardens are looking good. We are definitely looking forward to cultivating, harvesting and using some of those herbs. Yesterday, I pruned back and I picked a lot of my lemon balm, and I went online for, you know, things to do with lemon balm. I usually put it fresh and pick it fresh and then put it into my sun tea when I make iced tea. But there was a woman online who was like, you know, you can hang it upside down, you can dry it, and then you can like crush it up and use it in your little teas to make teas with. So I'm definitely going to try that this year. That was a goal of mine. I was thinking lemongrass, lemon balm, and then I realized I had lemon balm growing in my yard, so I'm going to give that a shot. Every year I've been putting in another lavender bush because I'm cultivating that, and I'm using that. I just harvested a little bit. I'm using that for the sachets for my woolens. And another YouTuber gave me a good idea of making some salts, some lavender salts for your foot bath or for your bath. And so you basically just use sea salt and Himalayan salt and Epsom salt, yes, and a little, maybe a couple of drops of organic essential lavender oil, and then your lavender buds, and put that in a nice mason jar with a little scoop. And so I thought that might be a nice gift, you know, for my mom or for some of our friends this Christmas. So I'm working on harvesting some of my lavender. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I'm also harvesting some of my basil. The more you cut it, the more it grows. And I had a pretty good bounty this week. So if you're interested in a pistachio pesto, stay for this next little portion of the video. I usually make my pesto with pine nuts, but I had pistachios left over from that cake that I made, and I really wanted to use them. And I found a YouTuber by the name of Eric, and it's elegant. I'm gonna say it in the video that I'm about to show you what the name of his YouTube channel is. And I followed his directions, and I made his pesto, and I also made one of his other recipes that I'm going to refer to, and it was delicious. Now I've done it twice, and last night after we finished, I only made a little bit of pasta, it's just my husband and I, and when we were finished, Dave said, is there any more of that left? I said, I'll make another batch. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you are enjoying your summer and your summer knits and getting to the beach and enjoying the bounty of the season, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, and stay tuned for the video if you want. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. I woke up this morning thinking about pesto because my basil is growing well in my raised garden, in my little whiskey barrel that I put basil and tomatoes in, and I was thinking about pesto for dinner tonight, maybe a pesto pasta dish. So I went online and I looked up some pestos. I've made the traditional pesto that has pine nuts. I've also used walnuts. But I had quite a bit of the unsalted shelled pistachios left over that I used to make that beautiful pistachio raspberry cake that I showed you in my last episode. So I went online and I went on YouTube, and I found this YouTuber by the name of Eric, and his YouTube is called Simple Elegant Home Cooking. And I made this pesto actually last week, and I really liked the recipe. It's quick, it's easy, it's delicious, and so I wanted to share it with you. So I have, the star of this pesto is the basil. I have 1.5 cups of densely packed basil, and I have washed this a couple of times and dried it. You really want your basil to be dry. You don't want the sauce to slide off of it when you're processing it. So we're gonna put 1.5 cups of basil in our food processor. Now, if you don't have a food processor, you could use an immersion blender if you've got the cup that comes with. You could also use a blender if you've got a high-speed blender, but I like this little food processor. Okay, the next ingredient we're gonna put in is our pistachios. Now, once again, these were the pistachios I had left over, so they're unsalted and shelled. The recipe called for salted, but I'm not gonna worry about that because I can always add salt. So we'll put those in. And our next ingredient is a clove of garlic. Now you decide how much garlic you want to use. This is a large garlic, and my husband and I both like garlic, so we're gonna go with that. This is a 1/2 cup of freshly ground aged Parmesan cheese, and you want good cheese. All these ingredients are going to be eaten fresh, so you want really the best you can find. So that's a cup. Now my husband and I both like it spicy, so I'm putting in a pinch of crushed red pepper flakes. These are chili flakes. I'm going to add some salt and pepper, just a little bit of salt, because remember those pistachios were not salted. So, and if we need more, we'll taste it later and we'll add more. Some freshly ground black pepper, again to your taste. And we're gonna start this, we're gonna get this going. We're not gonna bring it to its full consistency yet because we are gonna add olive oil to finish it. So I'm gonna pulse this a few times, so sorry for the noise, and here we go. Okay, so we've pulsed it down. I don't know, that was maybe 4 or 5 pulses. I can still see the chopped pistachios a little bit, and that's okay, because what we're gonna do now, and actually I can show you what we're looking at here. You can see the nuts, but you can see that we're grinding this down. So now what I'm gonna do with the lid on, and I'm gonna take this out. You have a food processor, you know all about this. And I'm gonna slowly start putting in the 1/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil. And so here we go. Scrape down the sides, take a little look to see how that's looking, and it looks good. I'm also going to give it a little taste, see how we're doing flavor wise. If you haven't made your own basil, it is so intense, it's so fresh, it's so delicious, it's worth it. I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil. I'm going to be putting this over pasta tonight. I'm going to make a pasta salad. There's also a great recipe that Eric has on his website, which is a pesto pasta with chicken thighs and mushrooms and sun-dried tomatoes, and I made that for us last weekend and it was a wow. But tonight I think I'm just going to make, fazooli corkscrew pasta salad, and I'm going to use pesto. So I can afford to add a little bit more olive oil to this. Maybe a tablespoon. What we've got. Take out the blade. Oh, I have a nice little serving dish here I can put it in. Now, another thing that's interesting about pesto is if you want to keep this nice bright green color, and if you're not going to eat it right away, you would store it in maybe a little container and then float a little olive oil on the top, and that will just preserve the color of the pesto. The other thing that's interesting about pesto is you can freeze it. So if you have like a little ice cube tray, you could make individual cubes of this, and then you could toss it into any sauce you're making anytime you want. So we got quite a bit of pesto here. This was 1.5 cups of the basil, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. Taste it again. So when I make my pasta tonight, I'm going to save some of the pasta water, that starchy pasta water, and as I assemble my pasta with whatever vegetables I decide to use, I might use roasted zucchini or roasted squash, roasted red pepper with the pasta, and then after I will add the pesto. No heat, you don't want to cook pesto, you could scorch it because this is raw basil, raw, everything in here is raw, the pistachios. So I will start to add the pesto, and I'll start to add some of the starch from the pasta water until I get a nice unctuous sauce that coats every piece of pasta, and I'm really looking forward to this meal. So give it a try. You saw how easy it was, and buon appetito. Thank you.